and welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to be talking about the qualities you need to have to be a virtual assistant in general, but also a virtual assistant to therapists in private practice, which is super important. If you're new here, my name's Kim and I am helping VAs who want to work with therapists in private practice grow their virtual assistant business and move away from that associate life. So the first quality I think you need to have is to be organized. When you work as a virtual assistant, you will have multiple clients. So you could have up to 10 clients that you are working on in any given day. You need to be organized so that you know what you're doing and when. If you're unorganized, this job is going to be really, really difficult for you because you are not going to know what you're doing when. You're going to get yourself into a complete muddle and it's going to be really obvious to your clients. There are ways that you can improve your organization skills with systems. So I love Google Calendar. You can use project management software like Asana or Trello. All these things are really going to help you. A good old notepad and pen is also something that is always on my desk because I definitely need that to keep me organized throughout the day. So there are ways that you can improve your organizational skills, but really this is a top priority for you. If you are not an organized person and you want to be a virtual assistant, work on this. Secondly, you need to have excellent communication skills, and these need to be verbal and also like written and things like that. You need to make sure that you can communicate yourself and your clients really, really well, because you are going to be writing to people on behalf of your client as their PA. So it's really important that you can take on the tone of voice and the communication style of each individual client that you're working with, because they will all be slightly different. You also need to be able to help your client communicate their needs to you. You need to get out of them what they need from you. You need to be able to offer advice so that you can make sure you have a good working relationship with your client. Third quality is that you need to be adaptable. So this can come in many forms. Number one is that you are working with different clients all the time. So you need to be able to adapt to the way that that therapist works and with what system they're using and things like that. And that is my number one reason why I only work with clients that use Google Workspace and Power Diary. So we're not switching between WriteUp and ClickUp and all these different systems that therapists are using. We're using kind of one system or maximum two, so that we know what we're doing so well in that system when we can jump from client to client and we're not thinking about, oh, I don't remember how to invoice in this system because I only use it once a week. So that's why for me it's really important that we only work with clients that work with the systems that we recommend. And I don't think that's typical for a VA to kind of dictate to a client what systems to use, but it is the way that we do it. So being adaptable, yes, you do need to do that because as you're working with different clients and different systems, you need to be able to jump into things really quickly. You also need to be adaptable for if there's an emergency. So a client might be sick and you need to jump into their work and call or email all of their clients and let them know that their session has been cancelled. There might be additional work that needs to be done on one-offs like projects and things like that. So you need to be able to pick up different skills and adapt to what your clients need. Next, you need to have good attention to detail. Now I'm going to put my hand up and say, I don't really have good attention to detail. It's not my top quality that I have, and that's because I'm too quick. I skim read everything, and that is not the best quality to have as a VA, and maybe why I've stepped away from being a VA as much and now teach other people how to do it, because actually that is not my top quality, and some of my clients would probably back me up on that as well. So having attention to detail is important. It is important in the way of, like, for specifically with therapists in private practice, you want to make sure that you're sending the right information to the right client. There's so much around GDPR and in America HIPAA, so you need to make sure you're not sending the wrong thing to the wrong person. Thankfully, I have never done that, and I've worked for therapists in private practice since 2016. So I do have attention to detail in some things, but when I'm reading large amounts of text or if I have to proofread something, that is really not my forte. Making sure that your emails look and sound good, making sure that you're sending the right things to the right people, all of that kind of stuff is really important, specifically as a virtual assistant and specifically as a virtual assistant working for therapists in private practice. The next quality is time management. So this is going to go with the first one, being organized, but being able to manage your time effectively really is a quality you need to have as a virtual assistant. One, because you are working with so many clients, you need to be able to make sure that you can fit everything in. Two, because probably if you're a virtual assistant working with therapists in private practice, you have lots of other things going on in your life. Maybe you're a mum and maybe you only can work in school hours. There might be other things that you're doing caring for elderly relatives. People in general just have a lot going on. So you need to be able to make sure that the time you are working is spent really effectively. Thirdly, is because mostly as a virtual assistant, you are paid an hourly rate. So you get paid for the work you do. You clock your time, you've worked half an hour for this client, you charge them for half an hour. That's typically how it works as a virtual assistant. So you need to be able to be good at managing your time so you're not dilly-dallying around and doing work that you can't charge for, working too long on something so the client gets upset that you're spending too much time on a task and charging them more money, and just being able to get as much done. So let's say you have 5 hours that you can work, you want to be charging for as much of that time as possible. Next, you do need to have good technical skills. And by that, I mean kind of online systems. For therapists in private practice, and I'm completely generalizing here, they're not so good at the technical side. They're not so good at creating a new system, at taking on, so let's say they want to set up Google Workspace. They're not so good at learning all of the features and what can benefit them by having this system, which is why I think I've done so well in my business, because that is what I specialize in, which is setting up online systems for therapists in private practice. So if you are good at that side, you're going to do so well in this business of working as a VA for therapists in private practice, because that is what they need. They need somebody who is good and likes the stuff that they don't. So they're good at the things they're not, and they like doing the stuff that they don't. Therapists generally want to see their clients. They want to do therapy. That is what they got into this business for, and they don't really realize all of the admin that goes alongside that. And that's what they want to get rid of as soon as possible, in my experience. So if you are good at that side of things, it's going to do you really well. You need to have good problem solving skills. Like I said, I've worked with therapists in private practice since 2016. So I think I've come across all of the problems I'm ever going to see now. But at the beginning, you have to have good problem solving skills, because you need to understand all of the things that can go wrong and be able and confident to fix that without getting your client involved. Obviously, if you did something really bad, like sending a report to the wrong doctor, or sending an update to the wrong client, something like that, that's going to be like a GDPR problem, a confidentiality problem, the client is going to have to be involved. But other than that, you really need to try and deal with things as much as you can yourself, so that you're taking that burden off of the therapist. You want them to just get on with their day, and you deal with any issues that come up, whether that's billing issues, appointments, scheduling problems. You need to be able to kind of work that out yourself as much as possible. And that does take time. Don't get me wrong. You don't start working with a client and they just give you all of their practice and let you get on with it. Gradually, you take on more and more and more stuff. But one thing I have found in the way that I work with therapists in private practice is I build that trust whilst we're doing the online setup, so that when we're ready to take on the day-to-day VA work, we already have that trust built up, and then we can take on everything, and the therapist is more than happy to give it away. So that's another reason why the online setups are so crucial as part of the onboarding process for new clients. The next one is to have a high level of professionalism. Now, you can obviously create whatever kind of relationship with your client that you want based on their personality and your personality. I have clients where I'm really, myself with. I've built up that relationship where, we're really friendly and we text each other and all that kind of stuff. But in the beginning, you need to be highly professional, because they are trusting you with their whole business and all of their clients and the client information. And if you do not come across as somebody that they can trust right off the bat, that relationship's not going to go anywhere. You need to be professional in every single aspect of your dealings with the client. So whether that is on Zoom calls, in emails, in text messages, if you allow that. Any kind of way that you deal with your client needs to be highly professional, and you need to set that standard right from the beginning. And then eventually, as your relationship develops, that can drop a little bit, as in, you can have some banter with the clients and you can have a different kind of relationship. But at the beginning, you need to be highly professional, and you always, this never drops, you always need to be professional with their clients. So whenever you're dealing with the client's clients, you must always be professional. I have worked with my best friend, as I said in another video. She's my first client, and she has got clients that she's had longer than I've been a VA. So she's had clients for multiple years. And even though they have emailed me every single week or every single month for the past 8 years, we still have that professional relationship. I never have banter or any kind of less than professional relationship with their clients, even if I've known them a really long time and I know all about them through, reports and things like that. It's always professional, and that is such a high quality. Like, it should be at the top of the list rather than right at the end of my list, especially for VAs working with therapists in private practice. There's probably many more qualities, but finally on my list is to be self-motivated. When you are self-employed and you work from home and you don't really have anyone to answer to, yes, you have clients, but how you kind of manage your day-to-day is up to you. So you have to be self-motivated to get the work done. First of all, the money is going to obviously help you with that. What I like to do is have a retainer for my clients, so they pay up front for the following month for an agreed set amount of hours. So that also helps because well, they've already paid for 10 hours. I need to work for 10 hours. So that can really help, rather than doing kind of pay as you go, where you work and then they pay you, because then you can definitely work less or not be as motivated to get to work. So the self-motivation is really important as a quality as a self-employed virtual assistant, because you really don't have anyone you're answering to. So I could be like, should I get on my computer, or should I just go and sort my washing out, or should I make a cup of tea, or should I pre-make the lunches? All that kind of stuff. You need to think, no, this is my work hours and this is what I'm going to be doing in that time. So it's really important to have self-motivation. Okay, so they were the qualities that I think every virtual assistant working with therapists in private practice that is working for themselves needs to have. If you have any others, leave them in the comments. I'd love to know what other qualities you think that you have or require as a virtual assistant. And until next time, thanks so much for watching.